Captain Rebecca Stone watched through the viewing window as colors swirled and twisted outside her ship. The UES Pathfinder had been traveling through space for 6 months, moving faster than light itself. Now they were arriving at their destination. Somewhere out here, the old robot probes had detected signs of other intelligent life. Today, humanity would meet their neighbors for the first time. "We're dropping out of faster-than-light travel now," said Lieutenant Davis from his station. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing screens in front of him. Rebecca felt her stomach lurch slightly as the ship slowed down. The strange colors outside the window faded away, replaced by normal black space and distant stars. She stood up straight and adjusted her uniform jacket. Behind her stood Ambassador Thomas Wright, a gray-haired man in his 60s who had been chosen to speak for all of Earth. "Well, this is it," Thomas said quietly. His voice was calm, but Rebecca could see tension in his shoulders. Humanity's first hello to the universe. The Pathfinder wasn't alone. 3 other ships traveled with them. The Discovery, the Venture, and the Horizon formed a protective pattern around the larger vessel. None of them were military ships. They had all been civilian vessels, hastily modified for this historic journey. The Pathfinder itself had originally been designed for mining asteroids before being repurposed. "Captain, I'm detecting something," Davis called out suddenly. His voice had changed, becoming tight with worry. "Multiple contacts ahead. I count at least 50 ships, maybe more." Rebecca moved quickly to his station and looked at the sensor display. Her eyes widened. 50 alien ships floated in space ahead of them, arranged in neat military formations. They were waiting. "At least we won't have to search for them," Thomas tried to joke, but nobody laughed. Lieutenant Amy Parker, the communications officer, looked up from her station. Her young face was pale. "Captain, we're being hailed. The message is aggressive." "Put it through," Rebecca ordered. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. The computer struggled to translate the alien words into English. "Surrender your vessels immediately. You have violated Zaltharian space. Resistance will result in destruction. You have 30 seconds to comply." Rebecca felt her hands curl into fists. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. They had come in peace, ready to greet new friends. Instead, they were being threatened with destruction. Thomas stepped forward quickly. "This is Ambassador Thomas Wright of Earth. We come in peace and did not know this was your territory. We mean no harm to anyone." 20 seconds, the alien voice replied coldly. Commander Jack Mitchell, who controlled the ship's weapons, studied his displays with a worried expression. "Captain, their lead ships are moving into attack positions. I'm reading energy signatures that look like plasma weapons. Their shields are active, but they are broadcasting the shield frequencies openly. Either they think we're too stupid to use that information, or they don't see us as a real threat." 10 seconds, the alien voice announced. Rebecca looked at Thomas. The ambassador's face had gone pale, but he nodded firmly at her. His meaning was clear. Get the crew home safe. That was the priority now. "All ships, prepare for emergency jump back to Earth," Rebecca ordered into her communicator. Her voice was steady despite the fear racing through her chest. "Mr. Mitchell, fire one warning shot across their path. Wide dispersal pattern. Show them we're not defenseless." "Understood, Captain," Jack replied. The Pathfinder shuddered as its main weapon fired. In reality, it wasn't even a proper weapon. It was a mining tool called a railgun, designed to break apart asteroids by shooting clouds of small metal balls at incredibly high speeds. The magnetic accelerator launched hundreds of ball bearings into space, each one moving at nearly the speed of light. The alien ships apparently didn't understand what was coming at them. 3 of their lead destroyers flew directly into the expanding cloud of projectiles. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma, did nothing against solid metal moving at such tremendous velocity. Each tiny ball bearing hit with the force of a bomb. The alien shields flickered and died instantly. The hull plating, built to withstand energy blasts, crumpled like paper. Rebecca watched in horror as the 3 alien warships tumbled through space, leaking air and debris into the void. Explosions blossomed along their sides. She could see tiny figures being sucked out into space. "Oh my God," Amy whispered from her station. "What did we just do?" "Self-defense," Rebecca said, but her voice shook. They had come to make friends. Instead, people were dead. They fired first. She could see on her displays that the aliens had indeed shot at them, their energy weapons leaving glowing trails through space where the Pathfinder had been seconds before. "All ships, jump now," Rebecca commanded. The Pathfinder and its 3 escort vessels vanished in flashes of light, disappearing back into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, they left chaos. The alien fleet scattered in confusion. Their formation broke apart as ships tried to avoid the debris from their destroyed companions. On the bridge of the alien flagship, a creature named Commander Kevrin stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. His 4 eyes couldn't make sense of what they were showing him. The human ships had been civilian vessels. Not military. Not warships. Just converted mining and exploration craft. And yet they had destroyed 3 of his destroyers in seconds with weapons he didn't even recognize. "Get me high command immediately," Kevrin ordered his crew. His voice was hollow with shock. "And find out everything you can about these humans. I want to know what we just encountered." Back on the Pathfinder, racing toward the safety of Earth at faster-than-light speed, Rebecca sat alone in her quarters. Her head rested in her hands. They had practiced for this moment for years. Rehearsed speeches. Prepared gifts. Planned ceremonies. Everything had been ready for a peaceful first contact. Instead, they had accidentally killed an unknown number of intelligent beings and fled like criminals. A soft knock came at her door. Thomas entered without waiting for permission. He looked as shaken as she felt. "The crew is asking questions," he said quietly. "They want to know what happens now." "I don't know, Tom," Rebecca admitted. "We came to make friends. We ended up starting a war instead. How did this go so wrong?" Thomas sat down heavily in the chair across from her. "You saved our lives. They gave us 30 seconds and then they fired. You did what you had to do." "With a mining disperser," Rebecca said bitterly. "We weren't even using real weapons. Just industrial tools. And we still destroyed 3 of their ships." She looked up at him. "If that's what our mining equipment can do by accident, what must they think our actual military could do?" Thomas was quiet for a long moment. "I'm sending my full report to Earth. I'll make it absolutely clear this was self-defense. But Rebecca, we need to prepare ourselves. Humanity just became very famous out there in the galaxy. And I don't think it's the kind of fame we wanted." Rebecca thought about the sensor logs her crew was analyzing. 4 converted civilian ships against 50 alien warships. They had disabled 3 and escaped without a single scratch on their hulls. She tried to imagine how that looked from the other side. How terrifying it must have seemed. "Send the report," she finally said. "And recommend that Earth stop all exploration missions immediately until we understand what just happened. We're going home." Outside her window, the strange colors of faster-than-light travel painted reality in impossible shades. The Pathfinder raced toward Earth, carrying news that would change humanity's place in the universe forever. Behind them, across dozens of alien worlds, the news was already spreading. A new species had arrived. A dangerous species. A species that destroyed warships with mining equipment and didn't even seem to realize how powerful they were. Humanity's reputation had been written in the wreckage of 3 Zaltharian destroyers. And nobody, not on Earth or anywhere else, had any idea what would happen next. The Imperial Palace on Zalthos Prime had stood for 10,000 years. Its crystal towers reached high into the purple sky, symbols of power that had never been challenged. Inside the war room, Empress Valnatrix sat on her ancient throne, looking down at her advisors. For 300 years she had ruled without fear. Today, that changed. High Inquisitor Mezkoth stood before a holographic display that showed the wreckage of 3 destroyed ships. His scales had turned pale gray, a sign that his species showed when deeply afraid. He cleared his throat nervously. "Your Majesty, we have finished studying the encounter with the humans. The results are disturbing," Mezkoth said carefully. He gestured at the hologram, and it shifted to show images of the 4 human vessels. These ships were not military craft. They were civilian exploration vessels, converted from industrial use. Empress Valnatrix leaned forward on her throne. Her long fingers gripped the armrests. "Civilian? You are certain?" "Completely certain, Your Majesty. Their power systems are commercial fusion reactors. Their hull construction is primitive reinforced steel. But..." Mezkoth paused, his voice dropping lower. "The density of that steel is extraordinary. These ships were built to survive conditions that would destroy our civilian vessels." Admiral Kevrin appeared via holographic transmission from his ship. He looked exhausted, older than his 200 years. "Your Majesty, those human ships moved through our weapons fire like it wasn't even there. They pulled maneuvers that generated 12 times standard gravity. Our pilots would have been crushed unconscious. Their crews didn't even slow down." Mezkoth brought up new data on the display. We have obtained information about the planet these humans call home. Earth. The hologram showed a blue and green world spinning slowly. It is classified as a Class 12 death world. Shocked whispers filled the war room. Several advisors stood up from their seats. A Class 12 was theoretical. No known intelligent species had ever evolved on anything more dangerous than Class 8. Explain, Valnatrix commanded, her voice sharp as a blade. The gravity is 1.2 times our standard, Meskoth continued. The atmospheric oxygen is 21%, which we would consider mildly poisonous. Temperature ranges are extreme, from freezing to boiling. The planet is covered in corrosive salt water. There are weather systems with winds strong enough to flatten buildings. The ground itself moves and shakes, causing earthquakes. And the dominant life forms before humans were massive predators with claws and teeth. An old ambassador named Drexus spoke up from the back of the room. High Inquisitor, how long have these humans been traveling in space? Meskoth checked his data tablet. Approximately 4 to 7 years. They achieved faster-than-light travel only 6 months ago. 4 to 7 years, Drexus repeated slowly. The hegemony has been spacefaring for 12,000 years. In less than 50 years, starting from nothing, they built vessels that can destroy our warships. What will they build in another 50 years? Another 500. The room fell into heavy silence. Everyone understood what he meant. If humanity was this dangerous now, while still primitive and new to space, what would they become with time and experience? There is more, Meskoth said reluctantly. We intercepted their communications. They broadcast everything openly with no encryption. Either they are incredibly foolish, or they simply do not fear anyone listening. What did their messages say? Valnatrix demanded. The vessel commander, Captain Rebecca Stone, reported the incident to her superiors as a failed first contact. She expressed deep regret for the deaths of our crew members. She recommended that Earth stop all exploration until the situation can be peacefully resolved. Admiral Kevrin made a strange clicking sound with his mandibles. They feel sorry? They destroyed 3 warships and they feel guilty about it. The communication logs suggest they genuinely came seeking peaceful contact, Meskoth explained. The destruction of our vessels was unintentional. What they fired was meant to be a warning shot. They did not understand it would be so deadly. The hologram changed again, showing tactical data. Your Majesty, I must report something even more alarming. We have confirmed that the 4 vessels that entered our space represent approximately 25% of humanity's total faster-than-light capable fleet. The war room exploded with shocked voices. Advisors shouted questions and objections. Valnatrix raised one hand, and immediate silence fell. 25%? Then their main military fleet does not exist, Your Majesty, Meskoth said quietly. Those 4 ships were their primary exploration force. They have perhaps 12 to 15 other faster-than-light vessels total. Most are survey ships or cargo transports. Our intelligence has detected no military fleet at all. Admiral Kevrin made a strangled sound. You are telling me that 4 civilian ships, representing 1/4 of their entire space capability, destroyed 3 of our destroyers with mining equipment? What would their actual soldiers be capable of? What would real military ships do? We do not know, Admiral, Meskoth admitted. That is what terrifies me. If these are their explorers and scientists, what are their warriors like? Empress Valnatrix stood from her throne, rising to her full impressive height. She had ruled through strength and calculated wisdom for 3 centuries. She had expanded the hegemony's borders through careful conquest and smart diplomacy. Now she faced something completely unknown and unpredictable. High Inquisitor, I want every intelligence resource we have focused on humanity. I want to know their culture, their history, their capabilities, their intentions. I want to know what they eat for breakfast, she commanded. Yes, Your Majesty. Admiral Kevrin, issue a fleet-wide bulletin immediately. Humanity is to be classified as a Class 9 hazard. No vessel is to approach human space without my explicit personal authorization. Any encounter with human vessels is to be treated as a peaceful first contact scenario. No threats. No weapons fire. Is this understood? Your Majesty, a young commander objected, surely we are not afraid of a species that has barely left their home system. Be silent. Valnatrix's roar echoed through the chamber like thunder. You did not see the tactical reports. You did not watch 3 good ships die in seconds from what the humans considered a warning. Yes, Commander, I am afraid. I am afraid of what happens when a species from a death world decides to build actual weapons instead of mining tools. I am afraid of what happens when they realize how dangerous they truly are. And I am terrified of what happens if we make them our enemies. She looked around at all her advisors and commanders. We have conquered 57 species over 6,000 years. We have fought wars across 100 sectors. But this is different. These humans are different. Send the bulletin to every ship, every station, every allied world. And pray that the humans remain interested in peace, because I do not think we could survive their war. The meeting ended. Advisors and commanders filed out, their conversations hushed and worried. Only Meskoth and Ambassador Drexus remained behind. You did not tell them everything, Drexus observed carefully. Meskoth sighed deeply. No. I did not want to cause complete panic. Tell me now. The High Inquisitor pulled up another classified file. My analysts studied more of their communications. The humans talk about something they call the resource problem. Resource scarcity. Drexus frowned. That would explain aggressive expansion. No. They are talking about their own history on Earth. Before they unified as one species, the humans fought multiple global wars over resources and territory. Wars that killed hundreds of millions of their own kind. Drexus felt ice water flow through his veins. They fought each other? With what weapons? Nuclear weapons that could destroy entire cities. Chemical weapons that poisoned the air itself. Biological weapons that spread deadly diseases. They developed the capability to sterilize their entire planet and make it uninhabitable. And they came very close to using these weapons several times. By the ancients. Drexus sat down heavily in the nearest chair. They almost destroyed themselves. How did they survive? Not only survived, Ambassador. They thrived afterward. They unified their entire planet. They eliminated most warfare. They reached for the stars together. Meskoth looked at the hologram of Earth still spinning in the display. These beings are so resilient that they fought wars capable of ending any other species, and then they simply decided to stop fighting and work together instead. Drexus was quiet for several minutes, processing this information. Finally he asked the question both of them were thinking. Meskoth, answer me honestly. If humanity decided to go to war with us, could we stop them? The High Inquisitor stared at the image of that deadly blue-green planet, thinking about a species tough enough to survive there, smart enough to reach the stars, and restrained enough to feel guilty about accidental deaths. I honestly do not know, he admitted. And that might be the most frightening answer I have ever given. 3 days later, the Galactic Bulletin reached every major empire and independent system in civilized space. The message was simple and direct. A new species had appeared. They were dangerous beyond measure. They had destroyed Zaltharian warships with civilian mining vessels. They evolved on a death world. They possessed advanced technology despite minimal space experience. All civilizations were advised to maintain peaceful contact only and avoid any provocation. Within hours, every government in the galaxy knew about humanity. Within days, fear began spreading like wildfire across the stars. Defense budgets were increased. Border patrols were strengthened. Emergency meetings were called. On Earth, completely unaware of the panic they had caused, the United Earth Space Council met to discuss the failed first contact. They debated whether to send an apology. Whether to try again with better preparation. Whether their translation software needed improvement. They worried about making a good impression next time. Not one person in that meeting realized that humanity had just become the galaxy's newest nightmare. They had no idea that their attempt at friendship had been interpreted as a demonstration of overwhelming military power. The misunderstanding had begun. And it was only going to get worse. Dr. James Bennett floated in zero gravity inside Research Station Delta, carefully examining glowing bacteria through his microscope. Outside the thick window, the planet below was a nightmare of boiling sulfur lakes and methane storms that raged at 300 kilometers per hour. The temperature swung wildly between freezing and scorching hot every few hours. Beautiful, isn't it? His colleague Dr. Emily Foster drifted over with a sample container in her gloved hands. Terrifying is more accurate, James replied with a slight smile. The atmospheric pressure down there would crush a car flat. The acid rain would dissolve most metals. Temperature changes of 200 degrees in a single day. And yet life still exists down there. That's exactly why we're here, Emily said cheerfully. The review board almost cancelled this mission after that mess with the Zaltharians. Did you hear they've classified us as a Class 9 hazard now? James laughed and shook his head. Us? We're scientists with test tubes and notebooks, not soldiers with guns. Try telling that to the galaxy. Apparently we're absolutely terrifying to everyone out here. What neither scientist knew was that they were being watched very carefully. 30,000 kilometers away, a small trading ship hung motionless in space. Its captain, a furry creature named Valara, studied the human research station through her scanner with all four of her large eyes wide open. "They're doing what?" her navigator Torvin asked in disbelief. "Walking around on the surface of Hellscape 7, Valara said, using the common name for the planet humans called Candidate 47. "In person. Wearing only environmental suits." "That's impossible," Torvin insisted. "Hellscape 7 is rated as completely unsurvivable, even for remote robots. The atmospheric pressure alone would kill anything living instantly. I'm recording video right now. Look at the screen yourself." Sure enough, two figures in bulky white suits were walking calmly across the planet's sulfurous yellow surface, collecting samples from a bubbling pool of chemicals. They moved easily despite gravity being 1.4 times standard. As they watched, one human slipped on a wet rock, fell hard onto the ground, and simply stood back up and brushed dust off the suit. "Did you see that fall?" Torvin's whiskers twitched nervously. "That impact would have shattered every bone in my body. They just stood up like nothing happened." Valara was already copying the video file to send to news networks. "The Galactic News Network will pay a fortune for this footage. I can see the headline now. Elite human death squads operating in extreme environments." Death squads? They're collecting bacteria samples. Do you really think the audience cares about that detail? The Zalthirians are already spreading stories about how humans destroyed their warships with mining tools. Now we have proof that humans can survive and work in conditions that would kill anyone else within seconds. This video is going to be huge. She was absolutely right. Within 12 hours, the footage had spread across every news network in the galaxy. Within a full day, 3 billion beings across 40 different species had seen it. The headlines varied, but the message was always the same. Humanity was even more dangerous than anyone had initially feared. Back on Earth, Director William Harper sat in his office at the United Earth Space Council headquarters, watching the galactic news coverage with growing confusion and worry. "We're being called what exactly?" he asked his assistant Helen Morrison. "Elite death squads, sir. Apex predators. The common enemy. One particularly dramatic network is calling us the Death Worlders." Helen scrolled through her tablet computer. "They seem especially focused on our ability to survive in what they call extreme conditions." William stared at the screen showing footage of James and Emily peacefully collecting samples. "That's Candidate 47. We rated it as a Class 7 hazard, which means it's perfectly safe for surface operations if you have proper protective equipment." "Safe for humans, sir," Helen corrected him gently. "Apparently most galactic species would consider going there to be suicide. The gravity alone would slowly crush species that evolved under lighter conditions." William leaned back heavily in his leather chair. "Pull up the comparison data. Show me Earth's gravity compared to what they consider normal." Helen tapped her tablet several times. "Earth gravity is 1.2 times their standard, sir. Our atmospheric pressure is significantly higher than normal. Our oxygen content is what they would consider borderline toxic. Our temperature variations are classified as severe and dangerous. Sir, according to galactic standards, Earth itself is barely habitable. But it's just home to us. It's normal. To us, yes. Not to them." Helen pulled up more data files. "Sir, there's something else you need to know. The Galactic News Services intercepted some of our internal educational broadcasts." William felt his stomach sink with dread. "What broadcasts specifically?" "Historical documentaries about Earth's past. Specifically our wars." "Oh no." "Oh yes, sir. They now know about World War I, World War II, the Cold War, and various regional conflicts. They're interpreting all of it as evidence of humanity's naturally aggressive and violent nature." William put his head in his hands. "We unified 70 years ago. Those wars are ancient history. We teach about them in schools as warnings, as examples of what not to do. We came together as one species specifically because we learned from those terrible mistakes." "They don't understand that context, sir. They see a species that fought multiple global wars, developed weapons capable of destroying all life on the planet, somehow survived anyway, and then reached the stars. Combined with our death world biology and the Zaltharian incident, they've constructed a narrative that humanity is preparing for galactic conquest. Conquest? We haven't even figured out how to say hello properly yet. William stood and paced across his office floor. This is absolutely insane. We're not conquerors or invaders. We're explorers and scientists. We just want to learn new things, make friends, discover what's possible out there. I understand that, sir. But 3 minor empires have already sent diplomatic representatives offering what they call preemptive surrender. William stopped pacing and turned to stare at her. Surrender? They want to surrender to us? We haven't threatened anyone. We haven't made any demands. We're just trying to exist peacefully. Yes, sir, exactly. The Kershalan Trade Confederation, the Valorian Assembly, and the United Fringe Worlds have all sent formal offers. They are offering us tribute payments, technology sharing agreements, and mutual defense pacts. Everything is worded as if they're desperately trying to appease us before we decide to invade their territory. William sat back down slowly, trying to process this absurd information. We've accidentally become the galaxy's nightmare monsters. It appears that way, sir. For several long minutes, William sat in silence, thinking hard about the situation. Finally he looked up at Helen with a troubled expression. Are we actually the bad guys somehow? I mean, look at it from their perspective. We're physically stronger than them. We're tougher. We survived conditions they find lethal. We have what they consider advanced weapons technology, even though we think of it as normal industrial tools. We have a violent history. Our first contact resulted in destroyed ships. Maybe they're completely right to be afraid of us. Helen considered this carefully before responding. Permission to speak freely, sir? Always granted. I think you're looking at this incorrectly. Yes, we're physically stronger than most species we've met so far. Yes, Earth is harsh by their standards. Yes, we have a complicated and sometimes violent history. But sir, we also unified our entire planet. We abandoned warfare between nations. We eliminated most major conflicts. We reached for the stars not to conquer new territory, but to explore and learn. We felt genuine sadness and guilt when those Altharian ships were accidentally destroyed. These are not the actions of monsters or villains. We're just badly misunderstood. Then how do we fix this misunderstanding? We can't control what they think about us, sir. But we can absolutely control what we actually do. We keep being exactly who we are. Exploratory missions, peaceful intentions, genuine curiosity about the universe. Eventually they'll realize we're not the terrifying monsters they've imagined. They'll see the truth. William nodded slowly, wanting to believe her words. I really hope you're right, Helen. Because if this situation keeps getting worse and keeps escalating, someone out there is eventually going to do something extremely stupid out of fear. 3 star systems away, in Zaltharian High Command, Admiral Kevrin was reviewing the video footage from Hellscape 7 with growing concern. They've been on that planet's surface for 3 weeks, he asked his intelligence officer, still unable to believe the report. Confirmed, sir. 2 scientists conducting biological research in conditions we rated as completely unservable for any living crew. Kevrin pulled up the planetary data on his screen. Atmospheric pressure 8.2 times standard. Temperature ranging from 420 Kelvin down to 180. Gravity 1.4 standard. Sulfuric acid precipitation. Category 6 storm systems constantly active. We specifically declared this planet as impossible for surface operations under any circumstances. Yes sir, that's correct. And the humans are just casually walking around collecting samples like they're on a pleasant vacation. Yes sir. Kevrin closed all 4 of his eyes and tried to calm his racing hearts. In 200 years of military service, he had seen many frightening things. He had fought in 16 major campaigns and commanded fleets across dozens of dangerous sectors. He had faced weapons specifically designed for maximum killing efficiency. None of it had prepared him for humanity. Nothing in his experience made sense of these bizarre, resilient, seemingly unstoppable beings. Update our threat assessment immediately, he ordered finally. If their civilian scientists can operate comfortably on Hellscape 7 wearing only basic protective suits, then we need to completely reconsider every assumption we've made about their limitations and capabilities. Sir, those are scientists, not soldiers. This doesn't necessarily reflect their actual military capabilities. Kevrin fixed his subordinate with a hard stare from all 4 eyes. If their scientists can survive Hellscape 7 as a routine research assignment, what can their trained soldiers survive? No, update the assessment now. And contact High Command. We need to completely revise all our defensive strategies and preparations. On Research Station Delta, James and Emily finished their shift and returned inside for dinner. The station cook had attempted to make something resembling spaghetti, with limited success using the available supplies. "Did you see the message from Earth?" Emily asked between bites of the rubbery pasta. "The one about being careful with all external communications?" "Yeah, I saw it. Apparently we're causing diplomatic incidents somehow." Emily shrugged. "Politics and bureaucracy. Anyway, I found something fascinating in today's sample collection. The bacteria are using a completely new metabolic pathway I've never seen in any textbook. If we can figure out how they process sulfur compounds in those conditions, we might revolutionize industrial chemistry back home." "Which is exactly why we came out here," James agreed enthusiastically. "To learn. To discover. To push the boundaries of knowledge." They finished their meal while discussing their findings and planning the next day's research work. Outside the station, the violent storms of Candidate 47 raged on endlessly, and above them the distant stars gleamed cold and beautiful in the darkness of space. Neither scientist knew that their simple research station had become a powerful symbol of humanity's terrifying capabilities throughout the galaxy. Neither knew that trading vessels were now avoiding this entire sector out of fear. Neither knew that military fleets were being repositioned and defensive alliances were being formed. They were just two scientists doing what humans had always done naturally. Looking at the universe with wonder and curiosity, asking why things worked the way they did, and seeking answers to difficult questions. But to the rest of the galaxy watching from a safe distance, they were living proof that humanity could thrive easily in places where others couldn't possibly survive. The misunderstandings continued spreading like ripples across a pond, each one building on the previous one, until truth became completely buried beneath layers of speculation and fear. The galaxy watched humanity with growing terror and panic, while humans remained completely unaware, simply going about their normal business and wondering why everyone seemed so nervous around them. The conference room aboard the Valorian diplomatic station was filled with nervous energy. 5 different alien species sat around a large table, representatives from 5 separate stellar empires. Admiral Thexus of the Valorian Assembly tapped his tentacles anxiously against the polished surface. "We cannot simply wait and do nothing while these humans expand closer to our borders," Admiral Thexus declared firmly. "The Zalthirians are the most powerful military force in this entire sector, and even they are afraid of humanity. That should tell us everything we need to know." Chancellor Breivik nodded his large head in agreement. "My intelligence services report that human civilian vessels have been spotted in 17 different star systems in just the past month. They're expanding rapidly into our region of space." "They're exploring, not invading," Ambassador Delith corrected carefully. "There's an important difference between those two activities." "Is there really?" Governor Velka's scales flashed bright red, showing his anger. "They destroyed 3 Zalthirian warships during their very first venture into space. They operate easily in environmental conditions that would kill our people in seconds. They have a documented history of planetary warfare and weapons of mass destruction. And now they are spreading across the galaxy like some kind of infection. We must act before it becomes too late." High Commander Lantris had been sitting quietly throughout the heated discussion. Now he spoke calmly. "What exactly are you proposing we do, Governor?" "A defensive military pact," Admiral Thexus answered. "Our 5 nations together represent over 300 inhabited systems and substantial combined military resources. If we unite our fleets, we can present a credible deterrent to further human expansion into our territories. Or we could simply establish normal diplomatic relations like civilized beings," Ambassador Delith suggested reasonably. "The humans have shown no hostile intentions toward anyone." "The Zalthirians showed no hostile intentions either," Chancellor Breivik interrupted sharply. "And 3 of their ships were completely destroyed for their trouble." "After the Zalthirians threatened to destroy the human vessels first," Delith countered firmly. "Context and facts matter here." Governor Velka leaned forward aggressively. "The context is simple. We are prey species looking directly at an apex predator. I've studied all available data carefully. Humanity evolved on a world where they had to compete with creatures that could easily kill them. They learned to hunt cooperatively, to build tools and weapons, to think strategically. They survived ice ages, deadly plagues, natural disasters, and thousands of years of warfare against each other. These are not peaceful herbivores who accidentally developed intelligence. These are predators who learned to think and plan." "That's pure speculation," Delith protested. "Is it really?" Velka challenged. "Look at their eyes, positioned on the front of their heads for tracking prey. Look at their physiology, built for endurance hunting over long distances. Look at their bloody history of conquering their entire planet through constant warfare before finally unifying. Ambassador, I mean no disrespect to you personally, but we would be complete fools to assume these beings are harmless simply because they smile pleasantly and speak words about peace. The room fell into uncomfortable silence. Finally Admiral Thexus spoke again. I call for a formal vote. All those in favor of forming a mutual defense pact against human expansion. 4 hands, tentacles, and various appendages rose into the air. Only Ambassador Delith kept his arm down. The pact is officially formed, Thexus declared. Now we need to send humanity a clear message. Something that will make them think twice before pushing further into our territories. I am strongly against this course of action, Delith stated clearly. Your objection is noted and recorded, Ambassador. However, the democratic decision has been made. Admiral Thexus pulled up a star chart on the holographic display. My scout vessels have identified a lone human ship transiting through the outer Valorian frontier region. A cargo transport, lightly armed, minimal crew size. We will intercept it, disable it temporarily, and send it back to Earth with a clear message that further incursions into our space will not be tolerated by our alliance. You're planning to attack a civilian cargo ship. Delith stood up abruptly, knocking his chair backward. That's nothing more than piracy. That's strategic deterrence, Governor Velka corrected coldly. We demonstrate clearly that we're not afraid of them. We show that we can and will actively defend our sovereign space. And we do it against a soft target that won't escalate into full-scale war. Unless you're completely wrong about them, Delith said quietly. Unless attacking their ship unprovoked is exactly what starts that war you're trying to avoid. Then we'll fight that war on our terms, with our combined fleets, Admiral Thexus said confidently. Much better than waiting for them to strike first when we're separated and unprepared. Ambassador Delith gathered his data tablets and documents. I'm formally leaving this coalition immediately. The fringe worlds want absolutely no part of this madness. You're making a serious mistake, Ambassador, Chancellor Brevik warned. When the humans come to investigate why you attacked one of their peaceful cargo ships, Delith replied sharply, don't expect any sympathy or help from us. He left the conference room, his footsteps echoing loudly in the sudden silence. The remaining 4 representatives looked at each other with mixed expressions of determination and uncertainty. Assemble the fleet, Admiral Thexus ordered. It's time we teach these humans that this galaxy isn't theirs for the taking. The UES Horizon was 3 weeks into a completely routine cargo run between colonies. Commander Lisa Park sat in the captain's chair, reviewing boring inventory lists with the kind of numbness that came from 16 years of cargo hauling. Agricultural equipment, prefabricated housing modules, medical supplies, 3,000 tons of frozen food products, and... She scrolled down the manifest with a frown. Seriously? Someone ordered 200 cases of hot sauce. Her First Officer Lieutenant David Chen grinned widely. The Kepler colony is brand new. They probably want to add some flavor to the standard ration packs. 200 cases, David. That's enough hot sauce to last a small colony 5 years. Or 5 days if they really like spicy food. Lisa was about to respond with a joke when the sensor alarm suddenly chirped. Contact detected. Multiple vessels, bearing 090, distance 800,000 kilometers and closing. Finally, some company out here. Lisa brought up the tactical sensor display. Let's see who else is traveling through this empty region. Oh. That's a lot of ships. 32 vessels, all military configuration, David reported, his relaxed voice suddenly tense. They are forming an intercept pattern around us. Lisa felt her casual mood evaporate instantly. Hail them using standard greeting protocols on all frequencies. Hailing now. David worked his console quickly. No response yet. Wait, incoming transmission. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge speakers. Human vessel, you are in violation of the Valorian defense zone. Power down your engines immediately and prepare to be boarded by our forces. Lisa exchanged worried glances with David. Valorian defense zone? There was no such restricted area on any of our navigation charts. Apparently established just 3 days ago, David said, pulling up recent communication intercepts. Oh hell. Lisa, it's a defensive pact. 5 separate empires have formed a military alliance specifically against us. Against us? Lisa stood up, staring at the tactical display showing 32 warships surrounding her single cargo vessel. We're hauling hot sauce and prefab houses. What possible threat do we pose to anyone? Captain, they're charging weapons, her tactical officer Lieutenant Rachel Kim reported urgently. Raise shields immediately. But do not charge our weapons unless I give explicit orders. Lisa opened the communication channel. Valorian vessels, this is Commander Lisa Park of the UES Horizon. We are a civilian cargo vessel on a routine scheduled supply run. We mean absolutely no harm and we're completely unaware of any restricted zones. We will alter course immediately if you provide the proper coordinates. Negative, human vessel. You will power down all systems and submit to boarding or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply. Lisa felt her jaw clench with anger and fear. After the disaster of first contact with the Zalthirians, Earth's Space Council had issued very strict orders. Avoid all conflicts, seek peaceful resolution always, and never fire first under any circumstances. But she also had 23 crew members depending on her leadership and decisions. All hands to emergency stations immediately. Helm, plot a jump vector back to Tau Ceti. She opened the communication channel again. Valorian fleet, we are peacefully leaving this area right now. Please do not fire on us. 20 seconds. Captain, they're not going to let us leave, David said quietly. Lisa knew he was absolutely right. She could see it clearly in their formation pattern. This wasn't a capture operation. This was an execution formation designed to destroy her ship. Rachel, status on point defense systems. Online and ready, but Captain, those are military warships. We're just a cargo hauler. I'm very aware. Just keep us alive long enough to jump to safety. Lisa gripped her armrests tightly. Helm, evasive pattern gamma. If they fire, I want completely unpredictable movement. 10 seconds. The seconds counted down in terrible silence. Lisa watched the tactical display, her mind racing through options. All of them were bad. 5 seconds. Captain, David started to say something. The Valorian fleet opened fire with everything they had. What Admiral Thexus expected was a quick demonstration of superior power. 32 warships had cornered one lone cargo vessel. Their weapons would disable its engines quickly, they would board it, deliver their stern message, and send it limping home as a warning. What actually happened would give him nightmares for years. The human cargo ship moved like nothing he had ever seen. At the very first sign of incoming weapons fire, it executed a maneuver pulling 15 standard gravities. The plasma bolts that should have struck its engines hit only empty space. The ship twisted, dove, and accelerated in patterns that seemed to violate basic physics. How is it moving like that? His tactical officer shouted in confusion. Pursue. All ships, maintain continuous fire. Thexus ordered desperately. The human ship's defensive systems activated. What Thexus had assumed were light point defense weapons turned out to be far more capable. The Horizon was primarily a transport vessel, but like all human ships, it was built to operate in genuinely dangerous environments, including dense asteroid fields. Its point defense grid was specifically designed to track and destroy tiny objects moving at incredible speeds through space. Micrometeorites, space debris, anything that could threaten the ship during high-speed transit. The incoming plasma bolts and missiles, by comparison, were slow and easy to track. The Horizon's defensive lasers began systematically tracking every threat. Each turret could fire 200 times per second with computer-guided accuracy. There were 12 turrets total. Missile after missile exploded harmlessly before reaching the cargo ship. Plasma bolts were scattered or absorbed by shields that, while not military-grade by human standards, were far more robust than anything the Valorian fleet had ever encountered in combat. Damage report. Thexus demanded frantically. We fired over 300 missiles and energy weapons. 0 confirmed hits on target. Captain, that cargo ship is pulling maneuvers that no transport vessel should be physically capable of. The Horizon jinked sideways suddenly, and one of Thexus's pursuing destroyers flew directly into its own fleet's crossfire. The ship's shields collapsed under friendly fire from its allies, and it began tumbling helplessly out of formation, trailing debris. Cease fire on Sector 7 immediately. Thexus ordered. Reform the attack perimeter. Do not let it escape. On the Horizon's bridge, Lisa was swearing continuously under her breath, a habit from her early years piloting through Earth's dangerous asteroid belt. Rachel, status report. Point defense is holding steady. Shields at 84% capacity. We're taking sustained fire from multiple vectors but nothing's penetrating our defenses. Rachel actually sounded excited. Captain, these aliens couldn't hit a space station if they were docked with it. Don't get overconfident. David, how long until we can jump? FTL drive needs 90 more seconds to fully charge. But Lisa, we have a serious problem. David highlighted a section of the tactical display. They're trying to box us in completely. If they maintain this formation, we won't have a clear jump vector to escape. Lisa studied the enemy formation carefully. 32 ships, and they'd already accidentally disabled one of their own through poor coordination. Amateurs with guns. Dangerous amateurs, but still amateurs. Rachel, can you target their engines precisely without destroying the ships completely? Captain, we're not armed with weapons. We just have. Rachel stopped suddenly. Wait. The cargo railgun? Exactly. The cargo railgun. The Horizon, like most human cargo vessels, had a magnetic accelerator for launching cargo containers precisely to stations or planetary surfaces. It saved fuel and allowed for accurate delivery. It was never designed or intended as any kind of weapon. But a magnetic accelerator didn't care what it was launching into space. Load the system with our smallest ballast slugs, Lisa ordered. I want to disable those ships, not destroy them and kill their crews. We're going to punch a hole through their formation and jump to safety. Understood, Captain. Targets locked and ready on your command. Lisa took a deep breath. This was going to create a major diplomatic incident. It probably already was one. But she had 23 crew members, and she was determined to get every single one of them home safely. Fire. The Horizon's cargo railgun fired 6 times in rapid succession. Each shot was a dense tungsten slug, magnetically accelerated to a fraction of light speed, aimed with computer precision. Admiral Thexus watched in absolute horror as 6 of his ships simply stopped moving. Their engines exploded in cascades of secondary detonations. Not catastrophic failures that destroyed the entire ships, but the projectiles had been precisely targeted to disable rather than kill. But the practical effect was identical. 6 warships were now helpless drifting hulks. All ships, evasive maneuvers now, he shouted, but it was already too late. The human cargo ship, its escape path now clear, executed one final high-gravity turn that would have killed any normal crew, and vanished in a flash of light into faster-than-light travel. The silence on Thexus's command bridge was absolute and crushing. Damage report, he said finally, his voice completely hollow. 12 ships damaged or disabled, sir. 6 have lost primary engines completely. 4 more report moderate damage from debris impacts and friendly fire incidents. Thexus stared at the empty space where the human ship had been moments before. 32 warships. They had brought 32 military warships to intercept and disable a single cargo transport. And they had lost. Casualties among our crews? Minimal, sir. The humans appeared to be deliberately targeting ship systems rather than crew compartments. If they had actually wanted to destroy us completely. The tactical officer didn't bother finishing the sentence. Everyone understood. Contact the other pact members immediately, Thexus said quietly. They need to know what just happened here. They need to understand what we're actually dealing with. As his communications officer worked frantically, Admiral Thexus reviewed the sensor logs from the engagement. He watched the human cargo ship dance effortlessly through concentrated weapons fire from 32 warships, saw it pull maneuvers that should have liquefied its crew, witnessed it casually disable 6 military vessels with what was essentially a cargo loading tool. They had attacked what they thought was a vulnerable soft target. An easy message. A simple demonstration of strength and resolve. Instead, they had demonstrated only their own weakness and incompetence. And far worse, they had just given humanity a very good reason to be genuinely angry with them. The Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Tau Ceti Station, its shield still glowing faintly from dissipated energy. Lisa immediately opened an emergency channel to Earth. Tau Ceti Control, this is the Horizon. Requesting emergency berth and immediate contact with Earth Space Council. We have been attacked without provocation. The response came instantly. Horizon, say again, you were attacked. Confirmed. 32 warships, completely unprovoked attack in open space. We defended ourselves and retreated. 0 casualties on our side. Requesting immediate guidance on how to proceed. There was a long pause. Then the controller's voice returned, sounding shaken. Horizon, you're cleared for emergency berth Alpha 7. Council representatives are being notified immediately. Please transmit all sensor logs right now. Lisa slumped back in her chair as David smoothly took over the docking procedures. Her hands were shaking from delayed adrenaline reaction. Captain, we did good, Rachel said quietly from her station. We got everyone home safely. We also just disabled 6 alien warships using a cargo loading crane, Lisa replied. Rachel, what is wrong with this galaxy? We're hauling hot sauce for colonists. We're not invaders or conquerors. Why are they so absolutely terrified of us? David turned from his console. Maybe because a cargo ship just fought off 32 warships and won? Lisa, I know we don't think of ourselves as dangerous, but maybe we need to start seeing ourselves the way they obviously see us. Lisa thought about the maneuvers they had pulled. 15 gravity turns that were completely routine for human vessels but apparently impossible for everyone else. She thought about their point defense grid, designed for clearing space debris but devastatingly effective against missiles. She thought about their cargo railgun, never intended as a weapon but deadly when circumstances demanded. We're not trying to be scary, she said finally. I know, David replied. But I think that actually makes us even scarier to them. We're not even trying, and we're still winning every encounter. Lisa looked out the viewport at Earth hanging in space ahead of them. Home. Beautiful, dangerous, deadly Earth that had forged humanity into what they were. And she wondered what would happen next. The Galactic Council chamber was one of the most beautiful places in known space. Built thousands of years ago by an ancient vanished species, it floated in neutral territory, equal distance from all major empires. Its walls were made of transparent aluminum, offering breathtaking views of stars that had witnessed countless peace agreements and diplomatic resolutions throughout history. Today, those same stars would witness something completely unprecedented. Humanity's first official appearance before the assembled governments of the galaxy. Ambassador Thomas Wright stood in the small waiting room, adjusting his tie nervously for the 5th time. Beside him stood 3 security personnel in dress uniforms. Lieutenant Amy Parker, Sergeant Robert Cole, and Corporal Jennifer Hayes. They carried no weapons at all. You're absolutely sure about this? Amy asked quietly. No weapons? Not even small sidearms for protection? Completely sure, Thomas replied firmly. We're here to prove we're not a threat to anyone. Walking in there armed would send exactly the wrong message to everyone watching. Sir, with respect, they sent 32 warships after a single cargo vessel. They already think we're dangerous. Which is precisely why we need to change their minds as quickly as possible. Thomas checked his tablet one final time, reviewing the briefing documents. The situation was worse than he'd imagined. 5 empires had formed a defensive military pact specifically against humanity. 3 more had offered surrenders before any conflict even started. 17 star systems had filed formal protests about human expansion. The entire galaxy was terrified. All because of simple misunderstandings. Ambassador Wright. A small furry alien appeared at the doorway. The council is ready for you now. Thomas took a deep breath. Here we go. The chamber was absolutely packed with representatives. Thomas had expected the major empires, but he counted at least 40 different species present. Some he recognized from intelligence reports. Others were completely unknown. All of them looked afraid that at the center sat the council leadership. Empress Valnatrix of the Zaltharian Hegemony, Chancellor Brevik of the KRYNN Confederacy, Supreme Arbiter Kelvin of the Thalaxian Union, and Elder Councillor Marthen representing neutral worlds. Thomas and his small escort walked to the speaker's platform. The silence was thick and oppressive. Finally, Elder Councillor Marthen spoke. Ambassador Thomas Wright of Earth, you stand before the Galactic Council to answer for your species' actions. Do you understand the charges against you? I do, Elder Councillor. Though I must confess considerable confusion about their actual nature. Shocked murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Marthen's eye stalk swiveled in surprise. Confusion? Ambassador, your species has engaged in multiple hostile military actions, destroyed or disabled numerous vessels, and expanded aggressively into populated sectors. You are formally accused of being an imminent threat to galactic peace and stability. Thomas felt his jaw drop open. Elder Councillor, with all due respect, that's absolutely not what happened. Empress Valnatrix leaned forward sharply. Are you denying that your vessels destroyed 3 Zaltharian warships? No, Your Majesty, but if you'll allow me to explain the context, are you denying that a human cargo ship disabled 12 vessels belonging to the Valorian Defense Pact? No, but there were specific circumstances. Are you denying that human ships have been detected in over 60 different star systems in just the past 6 months? Chancellor Breivik demanded loudly. No, but we were exploring peacefully, not invading. Enough. Valnatrix's voice echoed powerfully through the chamber. Ambassador, we did not invite you here to listen to excuses and justifications. We invited you here to deliver humanity's terms and conditions. Thomas blinked in confusion. Terms? What terms? For our surrender, Supreme Arbiter Kelvin said heavily. We are not fools, Ambassador. We have carefully reviewed all evidence of your species' military capabilities. We know that our combined fleets could not stop you if humanity decided to pursue conquest. So we ask directly, what are your demands? How many star systems must we surrender? What tribute payments will satisfy you? What exactly does humanity want from us? The entire chamber fell into absolute silence. Every eye stalk, and sensory organ focused intently on Thomas, but he stood there completely speechless as the full weight of the galaxy's terrible misunderstanding crashed down on him like a physical force. They actually thought humanity had come to conquer them. They thought Earth had sent him to negotiate terms of their surrender to human rule. They were absolutely terrified, and suddenly, everything made perfect sense. The defensive pact. The attack on the horizon. The fear in every intelligence report. They weren't being hostile or aggressive. They were being desperate, trying to protect themselves from what they perceived as an overwhelming threat. Elder Counselor, Thomas said slowly and carefully, may I show the Council some important information from Earth? It might help clarify this entire situation considerably. Ma then consulted briefly with the other Council leaders, then nodded permission. You may proceed, Ambassador. Thomas pulled out his tablet and uploaded data to the chamber's holographic display system. What you're seeing now is Earth. Our home world. The planet appeared in the center of the room, rotating slowly. Green continents, blue oceans, white swirling clouds. Beautiful and deadly simultaneously. Gravity is 1.2 times your standard. Atmospheric pressure 1.4 times standard. Oxygen content 21%. Temperature range from 184 to 330 Kelvin. Active tectonic plates causing earthquakes. Extreme weather systems generating destructive winds. Diverse dangerous megafauna. This is where humanity evolved and developed. He pulled up comparative data. For context, the average habitable world in the galaxy has gravity between 0.9 and 1.0 standard. Atmospheric pressure around 1.0 standard. Oxygen content between 14 and 18%. Temperature ranges of approximately 80 Kelvin total. Earth is significantly harsher than normal. We already know this information, Valnatrix said impatiently. Class 12 Death World. What is your actual point, Ambassador? My point, Your Majesty, is that everything we build must survive Earth's conditions. Our ships aren't designed as weapons of war. They're designed to survive the solar system environment. Thomas pulled up technical schematics. This vessel that destroyed 3 of your ships was originally an asteroid mining platform. Its hull is reinforced to withstand impacts from space debris. Its shields deflect micrometeorites traveling at relativistic speeds. Its weapons are industrial mining tools, magnetic accelerators for breaking up asteroids into manageable pieces. He switched to the Horizon specifications. This cargo ship that fought off 32 warships? It's designed to navigate safely through asteroid fields and survive intense solar radiation during close approaches to our Sun. The maneuvers it performed, 15 gravity turns, are completely standard for human vessels because our crews use special gel pod acceleration couches. We developed this technology because Earth's gravity is naturally higher than galactic standard. Supreme Arbiter Kelvin spoke quietly. You're saying your civilian technology is naturally more robust than ours simply because your homeworld's environment demands it. Exactly correct, Thomas confirmed. We're not trying to build warships. We're just trying to build ships capable of surviving home. The fact that they are more resilient than typical galactic civilian ships is an unintended side effect, not a deliberate choice or aggressive intention. He pulled up footage from Research Station Delta, showing James and Emily peacefully collecting bacterial samples. These scientists, who your news networks called elite death squads, are xenobiologists studying extremophile bacteria. The planet they're working on, which we rate as only moderately hazardous, is apparently considered completely unsurvivable by galactic standards. But to us, it's just a reasonably challenging research environment. Nothing we haven't dealt with regularly on Earth. Thomas could see the shift happening throughout the chamber. Confusion slowly replacing fear. Understanding beginning to dawn. As for our expansion into your regions, he continued, we have 10 billion people crowded on Earth. We're not invading anyone's territory. We're looking for room to grow and thrive. Every colony ship we've sent out is filled with ordinary civilians who just want land to farm, space to live, and opportunities to build good lives for their families. We're not conquerors or invaders. We're essentially immigrants looking for new homes. He pulled up the complete sensor logs from the Pathfinder incident. When your ships threatened us, Your Majesty, Captain Rebecca Stone fired what she genuinely thought was a warning shot across your vessel's path. She used a mining disperser tool at low power setting. She had absolutely no idea your shields were configured exclusively for energy weapons. She didn't know kinetic projectiles would penetrate so easily and cause such damage. When she saw what had actually happened, she was completely horrified. The logs clearly showed Rebecca's anguished communications. Oh my God, we just killed them. Get us out of here immediately. We came in peace. We'll leave in peace. She wasn't fleeing in triumph or celebration, Thomas said quietly. She was fleeing in absolute horror because she had accidentally killed people she'd come specifically to meet as potential friends. Empress Valnatrix's 4 eyes focused on Thomas with laser intensity. Are you seriously telling me that every single action we've interpreted as hostile and aggressive has actually been an accident or misunderstanding? Not every action, Thomas admitted honestly. Commander Lisa Park deliberately disabled those ships when they attacked her vessel without provocation. But she disabled them, Your Majesty. She didn't destroy them completely. The Horizon could have vaporized that entire fleet with its cargo railgun if she'd actually wanted to. Instead, she carefully targeted only engines, deliberately minimized casualties, and fled the area. Because we genuinely don't want to fight you. We never did. Chancellor Breivik stood up angrily. You expect us to believe that your species, which evolved as apex predators on a death world, which survived brutal planetary warfare and developed weapons of mass destruction, which build civilian ships capable of destroying our warships easily, you expect us to believe you're completely harmless? No, Thomas said very firmly. I absolutely don't expect you to believe we're harmless. We're clearly not harmless at all. If we were somehow pushed into actual war, we'd probably win decisively. Our biology, our technology, our history, all of it gives us significant advantages in combat situations. The chamber erupted in fearful murmurs and concerned conversations. But, Thomas raised his voice over the noise, we don't want war with anyone. Chancellor, yes, humans fought each other for thousands of years. We developed terrible weapons capable of destroying all life. We came within moments of completely destroying ourselves multiple times. But we didn't do it. We learned from our mistakes. We grew wiser. We unified our entire planet specifically because we recognized that our capacity for violence had to be carefully balanced with wisdom and restraint. He gestured to his security detail standing quietly behind him. These 3 people are armed, in a sense. Not with guns, we deliberately left those behind. But they're human. They could physically overpower most species in this chamber without much effort. Does that make them an immediate threat? Only if you threaten them first. Thomas looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as possible. The same principle is true for all humanity. We're strong. We're tough. We survived an incredibly harsh world and learned to thrive in conditions you find terrifying and lethal. But that doesn't make us conquerors or aggressors. It makes us survivors. And more than anything else, we want to survive peacefully alongside you, not despite you or against you. Elder Counselor Ma then spoke thoughtfully. Ambassador, what exactly does humanity want from the galaxy? Honestly, Elder Counselor. Thomas smiled genuinely. Friends. Trading partners. People to share knowledge and ideas with. We want to learn about your cultures, your histories, your sciences and arts. We want to show you ours. We want our children to grow up in a galaxy where dozens of different species work together productively, where differences are celebrated rather than feared. He paused. And we desperately want someone to tell us when we're accidentally scaring people, because clearly we're absolutely terrible at reading social cues and understanding how we're perceived. A ripple of what might actually have been laughter ran through the assembly. The terrible tension was finally breaking. So to directly answer your original question, Thomas concluded, humanity has no terms for your surrender. We don't want your star systems. We don't want tribute payments. We don't want to rule over you. We just want to exist peacefully in the same galaxy. If that's acceptable to you. The silence that followed was completely different from before. No longer oppressive with fear, it was thoughtful and contemplative. Finally, Empress Valnatrix spoke. Ambassador Wright, I have ruled for 300 years. I have learned to recognize danger and deception. But I have also learned to recognize sincerity and truth. What you have shown us today, either you are the most accomplished liar in galactic history, or you are genuinely confused about why we fear you so deeply. Definitely the latter, Your Majesty, Thomas said quietly. Then perhaps we have all made terrible mistakes. You, by not understanding how formidable you appear to others. And we, by assuming that formidable automatically meant hostile and dangerous. The council deliberated for hours. Finally, they reconvened with their decision. The Galactic Council has concluded that humanity's actions, while destructive, were not malicious, Elder Counselor Ma then announced. Furthermore, we acknowledge that the galaxy bears responsibility for this crisis. We responded with fear rather than facts. We formed military pacts without attempting communication first. These actions were unjust. Multiple empires offered formal apologies. The Valorian Defense Pact was immediately dissolved. Most importantly, humanity was offered full council membership, equal representation, access to trade networks, and protection under galactic law. Thomas accepted on behalf of Earth, feeling overwhelming emotion. As the formal session ended and informal conversations began, Empress Valnatrix approached Thomas privately. Welcome to the galaxy, Ambassador Wright, she said, extending one of her forearms. Try not to accidentally terrify anyone else. I'll do my absolute best, Your Majesty, Thomas replied, shaking her hand. Though I'm making no promises. 3 days later, Thomas stood on the Pathfinder's bridge as it prepared to jump home to Earth. Around them, a small group of alien vessels had assembled not as guards or threats, but as friendly escorts. Ready to go home? Captain Rebecca asked. More than ready, Thomas admitted. Though I suspect the real work is just beginning. We'll make it work, Rebecca said confidently. We always do. The Pathfinder jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading home. And somewhere in that vast galaxy, humans and aliens began the slow, difficult, wonderful process of actually becoming friends. The misunderstandings were finally over. The truth had been revealed. And the galaxy would never be quite the same again.